Welcome back to the program. We'd now like to recap our top story for you on Worldview this morning, and it's about the ongoing war of words between Eritrea and Ethiopia over their border clash over the weekend. Now, the Ethiopian government has downplayed a claim by Eritrea that it inflicted heavy losses on Ethiopian troops. In a statement issued in Asmara, Eritrea alleged that its army had killed 200 Ethiopian troops and wounded more than 300 others in what it called conservative figures. However, Ethiopia has immediately downplayed Asmara's claim, terming the figures as desperate and cooked up with the aim of covering Eritrea's own losses in the skirmishes. Ethiopia's communication minister, Getachew Reda, said Eritrea was inflating the figures to boost what he called the deflated morale of the soldiers. Both countries have claimed the upper hand in the fighting, which took place in the area of Sorona, an Eritrean town that was a flashpoint during the border war between the two countries in 1998 and the year 2000. Now, this morning, we want to just get some more understanding of what is happening at the border between these two countries. And I'm glad to be joined this morning by the ambassadors of Ethiopia and Eritrea to Kenya. Ambassador Beene Rusom, thank you for your time. Ambassador Dina Mufti Sid from Ethiopia, thank you as well. We appreciate your time. So let's start from the beginning, because Eritrea was the first to raise the red flag, accusing Ethiopia of infringing on their territory. So perhaps we can begin, with you, Dina. What is this? Eritrea says you're infringing on their territory. Is this the case?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like KTN for having me on this show, and I personally thank your crew as well. The matter is that Ethiopia is very busy at fighting one critical enemy. That critical enemy is only poverty. For Ethiopians, there is no enemy like poverty. Our enemies are poverty, backwardness, and ignorance, and we are busy at it. That is why over the last 10 years, we have registered double-digit growth. Ethiopia is one of the fastest growing countries on the planet Earth right now, because we are busy with fighting our critical enemy, which is our enemy. That is, poverty is an enemy of our brothers in Eritrea as well. So we don't have a business of infringing on the sovereignty of Eritrea. It's not in Ethiopian foreign policy. It's not in Ethiopian way of acting. We never infringe of the Eritrean foreign policy. We have never done it. What have been done was the opposite. The Eritreans have tried to infringe on our sovereignty. They have tried to provoke us. Actually, they have a long track record of doing this, because Eritrea has a long track record of provoking all neighboring countries. They fought with Yemen, it's there, the fact is out there. They fought with Djibouti, small Djibouti. They fought us. They had also, at times, conflicts with almost all neighboring countries. This is a track record of the Eritrean government. This is what they have done now. And
so it is your statement that it is Eritrea that started this conflict at the border?
Definitely.
Would you like to respond to that, Ambassador?
Yes, thank you for inviting me. Hi, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you. Our ambassador, I'm sorry.
I pity with the ambassador because he overstepped his mandate of answering this question, what you asked. He brought a lot of things backwards, We were friends together. Yeah. We overthrew the Mengistu regime, and we were living peacefully until they again took the offensive in 1998 with a very world-known flashpoint of Badme, with a claim that it is theirs. And we said that we should go to the international court.
Right.
But they opted to take a major offensive in 1998, which ended in an unnecessary deaths of maybe 80,000 from both countries.
Yeah.
And then, we pleaded that we should go to the international court. We did go to the international court it was the famous Algiers Peace Agreement, sponsored by the AU and the UN, and witnessed by the United States, European Union, Algeria, and Nigeria. So theoretically and legally, the war should have been stopped.
Right.
And because a verdict was given by the Eritrean Ethiopian Border Commission,
Yeah.
and the Eritrean Ethiopian Border Commission, which was established by the Algiers Agreement, demarcated and eliminated the border.
Right.
So we have a known border, which is theoretically finalized. And, you know, that time, fortunately, the late Prime Minister Meles Zenawi and our President Isaias Afwerki, hoping that the coming generations do not fight on this border issue, signed that this verdict should be final and binding.
Okay. And is it your statement today?
Let me finish, like you have let him finish.
All right.
It was final and binding, and we hope it for the good that we will live peacefully with our bigger neighbor, Ethiopia.
Okay.
That in 2 months' time, they said they condemned the ABC. They said they're not going to accept the border. They should have withdrawn from our occupied land. They should have, it is an imaginary line, because we are the same people around, especially around the border. There are lots of intermarriages. That this imaginary line will not inhibit the people to live there, trade, and live together.
Ambassador, I'd like you, Ambassador.
But they did not withdraw their forces.
All right.
They have started the war again from that point, from occupied land.
Okay.
And Dina knows this very well,
Good.
because he was a spokesperson of the Ethiopian government.
All right.
And
I'd like you to hold your thoughts for just a moment, because I'd like to update our viewers on another matter that is breaking in Kenya. We'll get back to this conversation in just a moment. And many of you remember the case against 8 members of National Assembly here in Kenya. They were arrested on suspicion of hate speech following some statements that were made. They have been held in bail in Communicado for a while. They are now being charged in court formally this morning. They're at the Milimani Law Courts. Let's take a listen into what is happening at the courts right now.
Of June 2016 at Capitol Hill Center in Nairobi, within Nairobi County.
I will. No, sorry. Right, and as you can see, the 8 legislators there in the dock, both from CORD and Jubilee, in a matter that has caused quite a bit of conversation in the country as to whether their rights are infringed for being held more than 24 hours without charge. Well, they're now being presented at the courts, and we've seen some of the charge sheets, and we don't know whether those will be the same that will be presented in court at this moment. Members Timothy Bosire, we also have Moses Kuria, we have Aisha Jumwa, and these are on either side of the divide, and that's just to name a few. And they're now getting to hear their charges and what will happen from now, whether they will be granted bail. Remember, the police still continue to say that they're conducting their investigations and listening in to some of those statements that were made at press conferences. Of course, others were made at celebrations in Kasarani Stadium by legislators from the Jubilee side. We'll be waiting to see what exactly is in those charge sheets. Of course, one other individual who has been charged with hate speech as well, and that is university student leader Babu Owino, was granted bail yesterday. And there you see them in the dock, and arguments being made on either side. There have been attempts by CORD leaders to visit their legislators at Pangani police station where they were being held. And of course, they were not allowed to see them, and their claims that their spouses have not been allowed to see them either. Court, of course, issuing an ultimatum to the judiciary to either have them released today or they go back to the streets on Monday. Some agreeing with this move, some criticizing it, saying that they should not threaten the judiciary, which is an independent body in the country. And of course, we will be bringing you up to date. They are now being charged in court. We'll get back to that as we continue to update you with the latest goings on here in Kenya and indeed around the world. So I'd like us to come back now to Worldview and carry on with our conversation on the ongoing border row between Ethiopia and Eritrea. I'd like to give you a moment to just conclude very quickly your remarks, and then we can go back to Ambassador Dina. Yes.
Let me conclude.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, as to the war in the neighboring countries, for example, that of Yemen, you know, maybe Dina doesn't know, we fought against Yemen together, Eritrea and Ethiopia. It was the Ethiopians who showed us that the Yemenis have infringed, have encroached to these islands, Zukur and Hanish, because Eritrea, before 1991, was annexed by Ethiopia, and the Yemenis never talked about that border. So they told us, you know, the late Meles Zenawi told us, these Yemenis have come to your land. And they assisted us in giving us some weapons because it was far away from us. And those holding the real power in Ethiopia, this minority group, the TPLF, the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, know the story very well.
Okay.
They assisted us in fighting against Yemen.
So his claim that you are infringing in all the countries in the region, in your opinion, is not true.
It is not true. Even that in that war of Djibouti was created by Ethiopia. They told the Djiboutians have never claimed any border conflict when Eritrea was with Ethiopia.
I think
then the Ethiopians told them that this is your
border. I'd like us to hear from Ambassador Sid, and I'm sorry to interrupt. We have very little time, and I'd like us to get through as much of the issues as we can. Let's talk a little bit about the Algiers Agreement of 2000 and, you know, the territory of Badme, which was said to be Eritrean, but then Ethiopian troops continue to occupy this part of the border.
Well, by the way, the issue at hand is not the relationship between me and my friend Ambassador Bayena. We are good friends. The issue at hand is the behavior of the government he represents, the pattern of the behavior of the government he represents.
And what is that pattern?
Please ask what she's answering about Badme. She's asking about Badme.
Would you mind, Ambassador, to let me finish? Because
I
was listening to what you have been saying, so that will have an advantage of...
Carry on, Ambassador.
Yeah. You know, with regard to Badme things, that war which we have carried out was unfortunate war. It was imposed on us. It was unfortunate. It is a war that should have not taken place, because none of us, both Eritreans and Ethiopians, have benefited nothing out of it, because that is not supposed to be our agenda. With regard to the verdict, which Ambassador was discussing, was talking about, we have accepted the verdict. As he has said correctly, the line is imaginary. The border line is imaginary. We have been proposing to our Eritrean brothers and sisters, let's come together and talk about demarcating the boundary, even about implementing the agreement, because we have more things than the border.
Right, but when we talk about the agreement, and allow me to interject, that people say then that Ethiopia is reneging on that, particularly with Badme.
No, we have
Ethiopian troops continue to be in Badme, is that correct?
We have accepted the verdict.
Okay.
What we have proposed to our Eritrean brothers sisters is that let's talk about in the implementation.
Right.
The implementation of that agreement.
So why are Ethiopian troops still in Badme?
Well, what has happened was, the village, Ethiopia and Eritrea used to be one country.
Right.
There are brothers and sisters who are living across the border. That arbitrary lines that was handed down by the verdict divides a village into two.
Okay.
Families into two.
Right.
The same churches or believing centers into two. And therefore, we were suggesting to them, let's talk together. We were not suggesting to them not only about the borders, talking about demarcating the borders or implementing the verdict, even about further things. Because we owe each other. We are neighboring countries. We have common destinies. We swim or sink together in this turbulent world.
So what you're saying is that demarcating the border is something that Eritrea is not willing to do?
The Eritreans were not willing to talk. What was happening was they were not willing to talk to our side. Our late Prime Minister, which Ambassador, His Excellency Ambassador was mentioning, his name, Prime Minister Meles Zenawi, he was even saying, I am willing to go to Asmara and negotiate with our brothers and sisters there.
Okay.
The current Prime Minister is also saying this. By the way, the only country we have a problem with, the leadership, and it's not the country, it's not the people, is the Eritreans. Otherwise, we have serious integration projects going on with Kenya, with Djibouti, with Sudanese.
And why is that?
Can I answer?
With the Eritrea,
all right.
Can I answer?
Let me finish. He has finished.
No, let me answer.
I have to finish.
You have limited time, Ambassador.
I know there is a
limit.
One moment, gentlemen. Let me allow him to respond, and then we can come back and
have
this conversation. All right.
The verdict has been reached after 2 years of negotiation. they negotiated, they based their verdict on the map, older map between the colonizers of Eritrea, Italy, and the Emperor of Menelik in 1901 and in 1902. Then they negotiated with the Eritrean side and with the Ethiopian side, and they reached the verdict. And the border was delimited and demarcated, finished. At the XY coordinates, there is no way to negotiate again.
So for you, the verdict is done?
Accept the verdict. Pull your forces from over, please, from around the Badme and the other regions.
Okay, if
and then we start.
We accept
There is
it.
no other negotiation. We have reached no negotiation
All right.
because we could not negotiate. Because we could not negotiate, we reached the negotiations through this AEBC, Eritrean and Ethiopian Border Commission.
Okay.
They negotiated for years. Then what they have to do is withdraw their forces from Badme and the surrounding areas. We start the diplomatic relationship on the morrow.
Okay.
On the morrow, no problem.
All right.
We don't. No house is to be divided. No village is to be divided because we don't erect wall. There is no wall.
There is no wall. So for you, there is no need to demarcate the border in the way in which Ambassador Sid is suggesting?
Madam, we have received our maps. They have received their maps. It is already finished.
Okay.
The maps are deposited in African Union, in the UN, and everything.
Yes. Your Excellencies, allow me to ask this question.
And the other thing, it is not Eritrea that is doing incursions in the neighboring countries. This tiny.
Tell me, cite a single example where Ethiopia has
please,
Right.
I don't
Your
interrupt you. I don't
Your
interrupt you.
Excellencies,
I
allow me to interrupt.
don't interrupt him.
Allow me to interrupt.
Okay, let
Your
me finish because
Please, very quickly.
because they do their incursions in the neighboring countries.
Where?
They kidnap people at will. They kill people at will in neighboring countries. They walk across borders of neighboring countries.
Your Excellency, you are making allegations without providing us with proof. Your
chaos and disorder in Somalia.
Your Excellency, I'm not sure.
This is a spoiled child.
Your Excellency,
not you,
please.
Ambassador. Your
Look at
government.
the behavior of his
Excellency,
government.
Your
This is how it
government
goes.
is a spoiled child
allow me
because they
to
receive
intervene.
massive support
Ambassador Assam.
from the international community,
Ambassador
so much
Assam,
that
please
they
allow
do
me.
things at will.
Ambassador Assam, please allow me. These are some of the statements that many watching in the international community start to say, we have a big problem. And many say that this is not in fact about the border
You explained
issue.
our discussion, war of words.
Yes, war of words.
And
this is what's
we are
happening.
doing war here.
But the war of words does have implications on the ground, as we have seen at the border.
I will explain the
let me
truth.
tell you
All
one
right,
thing.
please allow me to talk about this for just a
Let
moment.
him allow you, not me. I'm allowing you to.
Because many say this is not necessarily
Please,
about
Ambassador,
what's
allow her
happening at
to
the border. Ambassador Sid, please allow me to finish. That this goes much, much deeper, and we know about the war between 1998 and 2000. Now, Ethiopia accuses Isaiah's regime for training and providing weapons for Ethiopian opposition. Eritrea, on the other hand, says Ethiopia is hosting the Eritrean Democratic Alliance, which they are unsure about. What are these issues that are deep-seated? Because some say this is not really about the border, and there have been some very serious statements that are coming, in fact, from the Ethiopian government about Eritrea's leadership. Would you like to respond to that? Because,
All right, thank you.
Yeah, this one. Let me read
Yes.
you your information minister's statement. He says, stating that if Eritrea's limits its nasty behavior to itself is none of Ethiopia's business, we sympathize with the people of Eritrea, would be extending whatever support is necessary to help Eritreans get rid of the tyrant regime. And now some would say that's a statement of intrusion and incursion into Eritrea's internal affairs.
Thank you very much. Actually, I'll come back to what the minister has said.
Yeah.
Before that, there are things that should be cleared here. With regard to the intervention or interference of Ethiopia in the neighboring countries, which the ambassador was mentioning, this is not a reality on the ground. Because the only country, with Kenya, we don't have that instance. These are our neighboring countries. With Sudan, we don't have that instance. With Kenya, as we speak, we have what we call a special status agreement, special agreement. As we speak right now, our people are holding joint commission meetings. Our leadership is going to have high-level visits very soon. With Sudan, we have an excellent relationship.
Please
With Djibouti
answer
as
this
well,
question.
we have an excellent relationship. Ambassador, don't guide me. I'm speaking my mind. I'm not supposed to.
No, she asked you a question, and you are going for your diplomatic
ambassador,
relationship somewhere else.
Act like diplomats.
Yeah.
Please. You are a gentleman. You are a big man.
Please continue, Ambassador.
Now, there is no ambassador doesn't have any evidence about what he claims or alleges Ethiopia for. I'm very unfortunate. I have never expected from him, because this is a seasoned guy, this is a seasoned ambassador. He shouldn't have created an illusion, he should not have created.
You want me to shut my mouth while you are insulting me?
I'm not.
All right.
I'm not insulting
Ambassador
you.
Son, please.
But this is actually a fiction. As to what the minister said, I'll
Yes.
come back to it.
Yeah.
The minister was saying, still he's saying, it's up to the Eritreans to change their regime. It's not our business. We don't want to intervene in the interest of others.
But you still call it a tyrant regime. Is that Ethiopia's position?
Because of its behavior,
That is
not because of its domestic
yeah.
policies, because it's domestic policy, to scrutinize its domestic policy.
Okay.
To deal with its domestic policies up to Eritreans squarely. It's not our business.
All right. But you still call it a
is
tyrant
foreign
regime.
policy. It is policy of creating, creating.
So Ethiopia's description of a tyrant regime in Eritrea is insofar as it's foreign policy? Is that what you're saying?
No. What we're saying is we are calling it tyrant because that government is destabilizing the region. The interventions the ambassador was alleging me is that Ethiopia's involvement in AMISOM, which the Kenyans are taking part.
Right.
This is a government that doesn't even
But he
support
talked about
the
Ethiopia's
AMISOM.
specific response or assistance
No,
in
this is
regards
a
to
government.
the border
This is a
crisis with
government
Yemen.
that is against even the AMISOM missions. This is a government that is sleeping in a bed with Al-Shabaab.
That's a very serious statement.
This is serious,
Ambassador
yes.
Son, would you like to
He can
respond to
combat
that?
this. This is the government who has never condemned
Okay,
the
Ambassador
Al-Shabaab
Sid,
forces so far.
Ambassador Sid, we've heard from you.
I
Ambassador
think
Son?
I'm very sorry to say that he is still in the dark. The Eritrean Somali monitoring group has reported time and again that there is no Eritrean support to Al-Shabaab. And first and foremost,
That's why you are
Ethiopians,
sanctioned.
please,
What?
let me speak, please.
Don't worry,
Why don't
Ambassador.
you keep quiet?
No, I have
They
to
say-
talk.
they
Why you are
Ambassador,
under
please give him a
sanctions?
moment to
No,
finish.
they
please.
said that we have 2,000 strongman army.
Yeah.
They found none. They said well, we brought 3 antennas from Eritrea carrying ammunition, heavy weapons to Baidoa. It was not proven. Okay, and finally it was proven that Eritrea does not support Al-Shabaab. This is a known fact. And when we have been fighting for 30 years, we have never thrown a bomb in Addis Ababa. We have never thrown a bomb in civil war.
But
Our
some would say
fighting
you're
was
supporting the Oromia protests. Is that true?
no, the Oromia protest. It doesn't need any support. There was a BBC report.
Ask his
yesterday.
ambassador to
There
condemn
was-
Al-Shabaab.
Please.
One moment. He has condemned Al-Shabaab. Okay, all right. Let him finish.
Please,
Let him finish.
Please let me finish. It is not.
Carry on,
we are not
Ambassador
in a
Son.
bar. We are not in
Carry
a bar.
on,
We are in
Ambassador
front
Son.
of people.
Ambassador Son,
People
please carry
are
on.
viewing at us. There is a BBC report of yesterday. This government, which cannot be at peace with its own people, cannot be at peace with its neighbors. They have killed 400 Oromos, peaceful protesters in Ethiopia. I think
This is an absolute lie.
Please, it was a BBC
It's an
report.
absolute
it was
lie. This is a
it was-
government of 7 million people, whom half of the people are fled in the country.
Why doesn't he
So
let
the
them-
Oromia
and the
protests and the
roaming-
killings did not
that-
happen?
If
Is that
Even-
what
even
the
Ethiopia-
statement
even-
ambassador
even-
degenerates to talk about the internal situations of Ethiopia.
even Minister
This is a
Getachew Reda-
country
But you
of-
are also
this is
talking
a
about
country
the
of 7
internal-
million people
Okay.
who have
Ambassador
young
said
uses
you are
flooding.
also speaking about the internal matters of Eritrea.
But let's
You're calling
forget
the
that.
Eritrean regime
Otherwise,
tyrant.
this is Ethiopia is a proud country. It's a country of 100 million people.
Right.
These are the people who even could not manage 7 million, under 10 million people. This is half of the
How
youth.
so? How so?
Keep your
How
your
so?
hands with you, okay?
How so?
Keep your hands.
How
just
so?
speak like me, like this.
How so,
And
Ambassador Sid?
no, please,
But that is what I'm
he
saying,
is-
because that is
he
what- do you know the
he is, in
immigration
fact,
policy in
I'm
Europe?
very sorry to say so. He is, in fact, not from the Tigrayan regime. He is from, in fact, his own people are dying. He is an Oromo.
Look,
his
look,
own
look,
people
look,
are
look,
dying.
look, this-
Because if you go too far, I will go too far. You have served even the Mengistu regime.
No,
you
no,
have been
that is
insulting.
not-
You have been insulting this very regime.
That is
Gentlemen,
not-
You
that
have
is
been
not-
insulting this very
that is
regime
not
that
the
you.
case.
No,
That is
why
not-
do you go too far? If you go too far, I will go
The
far.
Your
ambassador is
Excellencies.
degenerating.
Your Excellencies.
No. These people, they are not living at peace with their own people. They have killed so many
I'm an Oromo.
protesters.
You cannot speak for the Oromos.
Okay, we'll
I
have you
can
speak for the
Oromos.
Oromos in just
But
a
is
moment.
this-
All right, we'll have you
is
speak
it
for the Oromos.
about- are we talking
Ambassador
about the
Sid?
internal affairs of Ethiopia?
Why
or
do you
inter-
speak about our internal affairs?
What
You
did-
started it.
who-
You said
who
we are a
started?
tyranny government.
You started.
You said we can.
Who started?
Your Excellencies,
the question
Your
was based
Excellencies,
at the border
let me ask
issue,
this question
at the
then.
border issue.
Because the international community is concerned about this war of words that is having far-reaching implications on the ground. We know of clashes at the border. There is still dispute as to how many were killed and how many have died. But what is not in doubt, I think we can all agree here,
I can let him speak. I don't speak.
Okay.
Let him speak. I will
All right.
let me speak.
Okay.
I don't want to
So
intervene.
what is not in
but
doubt
he can finish and let
is
me
that there
finish.
is conflict on the ground, on the border between your two countries. The world is worried that we will get back to the war that we had before, where more than 70,000 people were killed. So where do we go from here? I'll start with you, Ambassador Sid.
Okay.
What needs to happen?
This war is imposed on us. This is unfortunate war. It cannot help both countries. And therefore, I think the way out of it is this. I was telling you, in Ethiopia, we have a business. We have a serious business of getting rid of poverty, backwardness and ignorance, helping our people to come out of years of backwardness. That is why we have registered. I was telling you, this is a record there. This is
Understood, Ambassador Sid, and
so
I'm sorry to
therefore-
interrupt, but you've made that point before, so I
oh,
just want to know what we do going
it's
forward.
It's up to the Eritrean government to decide whether this war should continue or not. It's them
Meaning
who
what
can decide.
exactly, Ambassador
Meaning,
Sid?
you know, we have always had this policy of taking proportional measures. If Eritrea attacks, we take proportional measures. If they attack by air, we attack by air. If they attack by the ground, on the ground, we do it. So we respond in kind. If they stop the provocations, we don't have a business of
So that's
we have
all
better
it's going
things
to
do.
take. But many say that there should be a more diplomatic conversation to this.
That-
and with
and
all
also-
due respect, you
and also
are
more than
diplomats
that,
in
and
your
more
own
than that,
right.
let me add this also.
So I'd like to hear
more than that also.
Yeah.
More than that also.
Yeah.
We should go for the diplomatic ventures. We should go beyond Badime. These two countries, we need each other. As Ambassador was saying earlier on, these are the same people. These are people with similar culture. These are people with similar destiny.
Right.
We cannot afford to kill each other.
Okay. Is it your position, and maybe I should ask this to you, Ambassador Rasom, that all of these statements that are made between the two countries over matters that are happening there seems and sounds like here that none of you respects the sovereignty of either country? No. When we hear statements being made about what's happening in with the Oromias, and we hear statements about, what you think the Eritrean regime is about and calling it a tyrant, that still, even after the peace deal was signed and the Algiers agreement was signed in 2000, that you were both unable to just remove yourself from internal affairs of either country.
Can you give me a chance?
Yes, please.
May I speak calmly? Would you please restrain him from
Would you
intervening?
please-
Don't worry, don't worry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let me speak.
Please do.
It was a very easy solution because it was resolved by the Algiers agreement. In 2002, it should have been finalized.
Yeah.
Everything was finished. The border conflict, which was a pretext for the Ethiopians to invade us, was also resolved. We had our maps with delimited and demarcated borders. So it is an imaginary, like I said. The solution was the Ethiopians to withdraw from our area, then start the diplomatic relations on the next day, live peacefully.
Okay.
They don't want to withdraw.
So going forward.
Because they don't want to withdraw, because, even the late Prime Minister Meles Zenawi have said time and again that he wants to see to it that there is a regime change in Eritrea, which is being repeated by Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn. I am very to say that he doesn't even know what is going on in the border, because words are put into his mouth.
All right.
He also said we want a
So
regime change, blah, blah, blah.
Going forward,
He was not
Ambassador
part
Rasom?
of the revolution. He was not part of the regime. He was just picked up and made a
Going forward.
Yes, going forward,
Yeah.
it is easy. It is up to the Ethiopian government, to this TPLF, a minority government, to restrain itself, accept the verdict,
Okay.
withdraw,
So for you,
withdraw
accept
its
the
forces,
verdict.
withdraw its forces, and we start
Ambassador-
the diplomatic
Ambassador Rasom,
relationship.
I
I didn't
understand.
finish.
I have less than
Less
5 minutes.
than a minute,
please.
okay, less than a minute.
Okay.
We then start the diplomatic relationship. Whatever they do within their country, it is up to them.
Okay.
Whatever we do, it's up to them.
All right.
But you know,
okay. That's a good point for me to ask my next question, Ambassador.
Gets
Please
away
allow
with
me.
whatever they do.
Ambassador Som,
they can do whatever they want to do in
Ambassador
the
Som,
region.
please allow me
and
to ask
get
this
away
question.
with it because they are still getting a massive support, diplomatic.
Ambassador Som, you promised to speak calmly, so please allow me to ask this question. And I can possibly ask about what's happening internally without Ambassador Sid talking about it. While we have you here, let's talk about the human rights situation in Eritrea. Many calling it dismal. In fact, the Human Rights Watch report of 2015 talking about the forced army conscription that is responsible for many migrants leaving your country, seeking better situations outside, that the forced military conscription cannot continue. What is your response to a lot of these allegations of human rights abuses within your own country?
Yes, you know, the problem is that, you know, the European Union and the offered Eritreans free political asylum in their country. So people, you know, especially the youth, may go for a greener pasture. But those who have fled from this region are more than two-thirds Ethiopians and other.
I'm asking
Look,
specifically
I'm asking about Eritrea,
in the
sir.
name of
Stick to
Eritrea.
Eritrea.
In the name of
Look,
Eritrea.
guys.
Ambassador Assam,
Yeah.
I'm asking specifically
Eritrea.
about the
I told you to
situation
restrain yourself.
in your country. And this is the forced military conscription that many say is responsible for many Eritreans wanting to leave, talking about a closed media and that the media is not open. So without talking about Ethiopia for a moment, please respond
The problem,
to the issue of human rights abuses in
you
Eritrea.
journalists are not responsible journalists. You don't make your research. You know, the blame should have been to Ethiopia. It is the Ethiopians who are killing their own people. You don't have any report that says Eritrea kills its people.
Yeah.
Okay? You should have come here making your research. You should have come here reading all our releases, our press releases and everything, and then question the right answer. We have answered to this, that it is politically motivated accusation by this so-called three-people panel commission of inquiry on Eritrea.
So the United Nations.
It is not.
Okay, so allow me to give you the facts that are present,
It is not a UN report.
and then you can respond.
It is not a UN report.
I understand the report you're talking about, but the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees estimates that about 4,000 Eritreans flee the country every month, and that is of mid-2014.
According to my friend, what the ambassador said, you know, we are very few people. We are very few people.
So do you dispute
Eritrea
this
should have
report?
been emptied of its use if there were 4,000.
So this is not fact.
Let me finish. You ask and you again interrupt.
So is
Let
it a
me
fact
finish.
or not?
Let me finish.
Okay.
You have asked me. Not 4,000 Eritreans cannot flee. From the day they have seen so, started they have seen so, then Eritrea would have been emptied. We are fighting against this big neighbor because we have our use with us.
And some say that's why you have the forced military
only maybe
conscription,
800
because of the threat
Eritreans,
against
800 Eritreans leave Eritrea. That is very fact. Even the European Union, even the others now have claimed that more of the people that fled in the name of Eritrea are Ethiopians themselves.
Okay, Ambassador Assam, is it your statement today that there is not, according to the Human Rights Council, continued widespread and systematic
Not
violations
Human Rights
of human
Council.
rights
Be
and fundamental
careful.
freedoms?
According to the three-panel
Yeah.
commission of inquiry on Eritrea,
Okay, so I'm
which have based their testimonies
I'm asking
from
your response.
500 so-called refugees who live in Ethiopia,
Okay.
coerced and selected by the Ethiopians and given those data to the inquiry commission.
Okay.
So this we are dealing with it. We will challenge it. We will fight it. And it is not the UN, it is not the Human Rights Council that has reported this. It is the three-person panel. One is African, one is Australian, one is an
All right.
Asian. They have said so
Okay,
without
Ambassador,
any
we're out of time.
verification, without any proof. So they said it is politically motivated.
Okay.
It is because
All
after
right,
this,
politically
the
motivated.
Ethiopians want to
Ambassador Assam?
synchronize with
Ambassador Assam, I
the
think your
military
point is
campaign.
made, and our viewers have heard you. I'd like to give you less than a minute, please, to conclude and give us
I'm
your
very
final
sorry.
remarks.
Eritreans are killing their people because of Ethiopia. Eritreans are fleeing Eritrea because of Ethiopia. I am very sad
Not only
to hear.
Eritrea.
Please,
Somalis
let
are
me
being
finish.
killed by you.
Ambassador
I'm
Assam,
sad.
please.
I'm sad. But this is a governmental sanction, not by Ethiopia only, by the international community, the African Union, the United Nations, has put this government under sanction twice. They are still under sanctions
All right.
because of what they are doing.
And that is
I
where
wish,
we have
I
to
wish
leave
they
it.
change their
I'm
stance.
so sorry. We have run out of time. I'm really sorry. Ambassador Dina
You give
Mufti
me that
said,
1 minute.
thank you very much. Ambassador Bayani
You give me
Russom,
that 1 minute,
I'm
okay?
sorry, I do.
Because
we've
you know,
run out
I
of
hope,
time, Ambassador Russom.
I hope, I dream
Ambassador, please.
that this minority government will come into its senses.
This is a government
And
who
they-
has never known
Ambassadors,
elections
please,
for
Your
years.
Excellencies, I'm
This
sorry,
is a
I have to
government
leave
who
it
has
at that.
been
This is one
killing
more-
its
one- my-
people.
my-
We
They
thank
is
you for
talking about the
watching
minority.
Worldview. Ambassadors, Your Excellencies, please, we have to conclude it at that. Thank you both for your time. We hope